All right, welcome back into the saloon. I am Wrangler, and it's cold outside. I'm a little bit of a vagina when it comes to cold, so I got the sweatshirt, I got the beanie on. Gonna go walk the dogs here in a little bit, and it's like in the 50s, and it's like rainy and cold. So, not like super rainy. I'm not gonna get drenched, but whatever. I want to be comfortable. We are gonna go over the Nightsister mechanics. I had a request on the YouTube channel for this team. There are two teams. There's the Mother Talzin team that we're going to go over today, and then there's the Great Mothers team, which in a lot of respects is better, has more utility in assault battles, in GAC, in Conquest. Like, the Great Mothers team is amazing, but that's not the one we're talking about today. We're going OG Talzin here as requested. So let's jump into the mechanics. Let's check out this team, and I'll give you my take on it. Okay, so, well, there's the how it works screen. We don't want to miss Luke. He does a lot of work for us. We thank him for it. All right, so like I said, this is the OG Talzin lead team. Now, this team, on average, is really, really friendly. You don't need a lot of gear. You don't need a lot of mods. You just need a couple Zetas, and you're good to go. There are some mod levels and gear levels that we'll get into as we get into the characters, but this is a really friendly early game team that kind of loses viability as you move throughout the game. So as your account grows, you'll find yourself using this team less and less, except in some niche game modes like Conquest, where this team destroys JTR teams, it destroys Geos, it destroys General Grievous teams. And if you mod it up and relic it up relatively high, like I have, sometimes you can take out a Jabba in GAC, 3v3 and 5v5. So we'll get into all that, but in general, you don't need a lot of investment in this team to make them work really, really well. So really fun squad. I'd recommend building them up just to where you need them, and then let them sit for a while. There's other Jabba counters out there. If you find yourself at end game, late game, and you want to gear these guys up, these ladies, the Hermanas de las Noches, go for it. You'll have a lot of fun with them. The two things about this team is, one, you gotta revive to stay alive. It's all about Zombie and Marin and Old Daka keeping your team coming back and back and back and back until you spread the plague enough and you kill all the units on the board. So that's kind of how this team works. That's the basics. Let's get into some of the mechanics. All right. So you have three potential leaders on this team. Talzin is by far the most common, and that's because of her plague effects that she gives to the team. So in her leadership, the Great Mother, you get 50% potency, so you can land those plagues easier, and 30 speed, so you can do it more often. On an ally's special, they're going to inflict plague for 3 turns, and allies gain turn meter when that plague is resisted. So you get a little bit of a, como si, como sa benefit there. On an ally basic, you're going to revive a random Nightsister ally who has been defeated, if they can be, and they're going to keep coming back and back and back and back every time you do a basic. So this is why the Mother Talzin leadership is so common. It provides a lot of plague, it provides a lot of revives, and every time your Nightsister allies get defeated, they get to come back for a turn and hit the enemy, inflict more plague, and if it defeats an enemy, then they revive automatically. In the unique Plague Bearer, enemies inflicted with plague spread it to a random enemy. This is how plague destroys an enemy team, especially those teams that are reliant upon specials and spreading their specials around, like JTR and GG and Geos. Plague can decimate those teams really quickly. And you're going to get more speed on Talzin when one of your units or the enemies goes below 50% health. So there's some turn meter generation in this team as well. Again, you don't need a lot of gear on Talzin. In fact, you kind of want her to die. But you want high potency because you want to hit that plague as much as possible. If you want to see a really good example of this, go watch Still Plays. He uses a low gear Nightsister team all the time for really good effect against Finzori teams for the most part, but also on those JTRs or GGs if they come up in GAC. You can also use Daka as a leader. Her leadership is called Nightsister Elder, and it makes them beefier. You get 50% health, 50% defense, And it's better against teams that do a lot of AoE damage, like the Geos and GG teams, the General Grievous teams. It's just not as common. There is a rare, not rare, there's a niche use for old Daka lead in the Nightsisters Assault Battle, where you can kind of survive Darth Sidious's big hits, phase 3 or phase 4, that typically wipes out your whole team. If you have a high relic Daka, and she's modded for health and or defense, and she doesn't get ability blocked on that Sidious turn, then she can revive the whole team, and you can power through from there. So I have seen that used in the past. It's tricky, it's RNG dependent, and the Great Mother's team does that assault battle way better, but you can use it. Her unique, old Daka's unique, serve again. You gain 50% turn meter on an ally defeat, which allows you to cycle through your abilities and revive your team more often. Each revived ally gains 20% turn meter, offense up and defense up for 2 turns, and Daka gains stacking max health, so she becomes more survivable as you go. Woo! Excuse me. I was trying to hold that back, it wasn't working. Her gear and mods, you need her to survive, so the more relics you can put on her, the more health and defense you can put on her, the better. And you want to mod her for health, not protection, because she gains that stacking max health, not stacking protection. So health mods are better if you're going to go that route. The third leader, probably the most rare on this team, is Asajj, and she is your turn meter train. So if you're fighting Geos, you can make good use out of this leadership. Realize that all of these leaderships have Zetas, so you can save Zetas just by doing Talzin, and you'll get a ton of use out of this team. But if you want to use these other leads for whatever, you can do that too. It just costs more materials. All right, her leadership, Asajj's, is called Nightsister Swiftness, and it's a turn meter loop. So Nightsister allies gain 30 speed, they gain 30% offense, and 50% TM when below 100% health. And they have a 50% chance to remove some turn meter, 20%, when enemies are damaged. Her unique is called Rampage. This is also an Omicron ability if you want to go that crazy with it. You don't need it, but it's there for more damage if you want it. But this unique, Asajj is gaining 35% turn meter and 15% offense, crit chance, and max health when an ally or enemy is defeated. Now if you have Nightsister Zombie in the squad, you're going to get 2 free revives before that stops. It's just not as many as the old Daka or the Talzin lead, so just be aware you're not going to revive as much as you think you might. You're also going to gain 15 speed for every enemy without a buff. So again, you're gaining speed, you're getting turn meter loops going here. If you're running her under Talzin, you want low gear again, you want her to die a lot, but you want as high an offense or crit damage as you can. She gets critical stacking chance every time she revives, so get some crit chance on her too, but you can go just the pure offense mods if you're not worrying about crits, or you can go crit damage mods if you want that crit damage to ramp up along with her crit chance as she dies, revives, and hits those basics. So again, leadership-wise, turn meter for Asajj, beefiness for old Daka, and plague and revives for Talzin. Again, by far the most common. All right, the all-star in this team is Marin. She was the newest Nightsister released prior to the Great Mother's team and the Imperial Remnants. She is the all-star on the Talzin team. Again, you want her modded kind of specifically. It's a little weird, but you want her higher relics. She benefits from that. The team benefits from that, and you want her sticking around. Her uniques. The first is Last of the Nightsisters. This is the first time a Nightsister ally is defeated. Marin is gaining 100% turn meter. Or if they're reviving after that first time, she's gaining 15% turn meter every time that happens, plus 2% of the relic level of the ally. So if you're going to relic up all of your Nightsisters, Marin is going to benefit from this. She's going to take more turns and be able to revive potentially those allies that you've lost that can be revived after the 2 Nightsister zombie deaths. Vengeful Bond is her second unique. When an ally is debuffed, Marin is going to gain turn meter again, more when she's at 0 turn meter, so when she's restarting her turns, or 10% when she's above 0% turn meter. So she's gaining turn meter passively on debuffs. And then she's going to dispel those ally debuffs. This is also where you get your protection recovery, which is great for banners in GAC, a lot of banner recovery through this mechanic. And then when the ally is revived, you're going to grant all allies instant defeat. This is how you can take out Jabba's, right? Because the Rancor comes out and tries to eat a Night Sister, and they've got instant defeat immunity. So, sorry, Rancor, no snacks for you. You're also going to get a 20% chance per relic level on Marin this time, or an AoE Plague for 3 turns. So you kind of want that. So when your allies are revived, you get instant defeat immunity, and you have the potential to hit Plague out on the whole enemy team and burn through them faster. Her basic is a stacking Plague, so you get 2 stacks of Plague on that enemy, the target enemy, for 3 turns. Her Shadow Stride special, this I believe unlocks at gear 12, so you need her up at least there to apply the Zeta. You're going to inflict AoE Plague, 2 stacks for 3 turns. Allies are going to recover 10% health and protection. She's going to cleanse herself, and then she gains this magic stealth ability. It's one of the most annoying graphics in the game. Just visually, it looks weird. It pauses the game. It takes forever. So you can time out with this if she's doing this a bunch. But it does help, because when you lose the magic stealth, whenever an ally is debuffed or defeated, you get to revive a random ally at 50% health. So this helps Zombie with your revives. This helps the Talzin leadership with your revives. It just keeps your team coming back and back and back. She's got another special. Dathomir will be your grave. This is your stun mechanic, so again, you want high potency on her to make this hit. You're going to inflict 4 stacks of AoE Plague for 3 turns if it defeats an enemy, so that's good. And you're going to dispel buffs on the enemies if they have more than 2 stacks of Plague, which is a lot. So again, the modding on her is a bit specific. You want no speed. She benefits 0 from speed mods because she's gaining it passively through her uniques. So no speed on her. The slower you get her, fine, save your mods. But you do want a lot of potency. And you may want a lot of tenacity, because if she gets stunned or she dies because of thermals, your higher level counters are going to fail. So I've got mine with all tenacity mods and high potency. It's a weird mod set, I know, but that's how I've been able to beat some Jabbas every now and again. We'll talk about why that fails and why it works here in a sec. But that's Marin. She is kind of the secondary engine under the Talzin lead. All right, then you have the supporting cast. So we've got all these Nightsisters below us, and I know I'm a mad lad. I have purchased the Lightspeed bundles for these Hermanas, and I've geared them up. I've put Omicrons on them and Zetas, and I've used all of the leaderships in different scenarios. Not as much as I should. A lot of times I'm just taking out JTRs or GGs or Geos in Conquest with these. But I do like to try it up against Jabba in 3v3 and 5v5 and just see if I get some luck. Nightsister Zombie, the first of the supporting cast, is essential. You need her up at gear 10 to get her revive mechanic going, so get her at least up there. But then you don't need to put any more investment in her. You just need her fast, so that when she revives, she auto-taunts, the team has to take her out again, and the rest of your sisters survive a bit longer. You can get her up into high relics and make her super tanky, and then she doesn't revive as much, but she takes more hits. So there's a give and take there on how high up you want to get her. Nightsister Initiate and Alkalite and Talia, do yourself a favor and leave them at gear 1, level 1, and never touch them again. They are useless. Except in the situation, if you have them like I do, where you can run 2 separate Nightsister teams and an independent Enoch Imperial Remnant team. If you want to do that, then you need to get 2 of those sisters up. And Talia does have a cleanse, which is somewhat helpful in that assault battle. Initiate and Alkalite are relatively useless. Alkalite is fast, so she can help cycle through turns on the Great Mother team. But overall, don't do what I did. Leave them at gear 1, level 1, and just let them rot on your roster. You're probably never going to use them. The Great Mothers are amazing, but it's a different team. Nightsister Spirit is amazing in a Great Mothers team, not so great in a Talzin team. She'll still work if you want to use her, but she's not as good as the others. Morgan Elsbeth is the same, and Night Trooper and Death Trooper Peridia, they have their own assault battle with Enoch, so if you're building up an Enoch team, they're great, and they're good for resources in the awards for those assault battles. But again, not part of the Talzin team. A lot of the Great Mothers team prevents revives, especially Morgan Elsbeth, so she like nerfs the Mother Talzin lead. So don't put the new Nightsisters in with Talzin. Go with the OG stuff, and you'll do a lot better. At least in my opinion. So if we get into the GG data, the swigo.gg database for GAC, let's go into who to attack. In the early game, Nightsisters are a pain in the butt on defense, so you're going to see them a lot. But there's some easy counters for them early game. And then they're almost always used on offense in late game because they are not a very good defensive team. The Great Mothers are much tougher on defense and much better on offense. They're just a better team in general because they're newer, right? They have better stats, and they were designed to be used more broadly in the game. But the OG Talzin team, sometimes, every now and again, minimally, you can take out a Jabba team, GL Jabba, in 3s and 5s. If you want to know how to do this, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go check out Zareth Prevail's Faction Essentials on the Nightsisters. He goes into this stuff in way more detail. He is much better at it, much more knowledgeable. He'll get into gear levels and mods and turn order and mechanics and how to defeat Jabba. But even he fails sometimes. And that's because you have single-digit win rates in general until you hit about 56% on the win rate. And then you get a lot more times where you're successful. But it is a tricky counter. It's very RNG, in my opinion. Again, I've got my sisters modded for a ton of tenacity and more protection than health, so we can resist those thermal detonators coming out of Bush Leia, and I still lose way more times than I win. So you can do it. You just got to know what you're doing, and that's not my skill set. I just like pushing buttons. However, some teams are hard countered by the Nightsisters. JTR for sure. Finn Zori, if you know what you're doing a little bit, you can get them down pretty well. General Grievous without Watt, because Watt gives out that weapons tech, that little circle icon, and then whoever is killed by the character with that icon can't revive. So that totally nerfs your Talzin team. But if they've got Stap, if they've got any of the other Separatist droids and don't have Watt, you can get a really high win rate on General Grievous teams. Geonosians, another monster defensive team in the early game. You can clear them out with this Talzin team. Enoch Remnants, Radis Rogue One for you late gamers. Captain Phasma First Order teams, great for territory wars. You can take them out with this Talzin team. And even the Grand Inquisitors, with Grand Inquisitor, not Reva. Reva will kill you. But if it's a Grand Inquisitor lead or a Fifth Brother lead, the Talzin team works really well with those Inquisitors. In the defensive use category, they've only been set about 16,000 times, again, because they're just not very good after you get out of the early and mid game. You just don't see them very often. They only have a 12% hold rate, and you get a lot of banners when you beat them, 56 banner win rate. Your top counters, you can solo them with Slacker, 100% win rate, Gas 501st, prevents revives, as does Sir Malicos, high win rates there. Phoenix, you can cycle through your specials if you have Captain Rex, Zeta it up, and you'll destroy this Talzin team. Tuskens, look at that, man. We get a use for our Tuskens. You can take this team out if you see them on defense and get the Tuskens some use in 5v5. And then Imperial Troopers, by far and away, is the go-to team to take these Talzin Nightsisters out. You got to be faster, and your Dark Trooper has to hit hard because it's totally dependent on them not taking a turn. If you let the sisters get loose, they will wreck you. So, you know, fast Piet, fast Moff Gideon under a General Veers lead, and then punch, punch, punch with Dark Trooper, and you'll take out these sisters pretty easily. Okay, so to summarize, you want Talzin as the OG Nightsister lead. She's amazing. It only requires a couple Zetas if you do that. You do need high relics on Daka and Marin if you want this team to work well. But the rest of the sisters, you really don't have to mod them up all that well or gear them up all that much. Just to about gear level 10, and this team will function just fine. You got to revive to stay alive, though, so get that Daka beefy and defensive. And get those relics on Marin so she can help you out with that. And then just let Talzin spread the plague, and that will be your keys to victory for this team. Okay, let's take a look at some gameplay here. This first battle is up against JTR in Conquest. This is Sector 5, the toughest JTR team you can find. And as you saw, my sisters are somewhere between Relic 5 and 7, based on which one. We want them to die, so having Talzin take a bullet to the face there is great. A little pew 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 action. And we're just going to let Marin dispel debuffs. We're going to let Talzin's unique spread the plague, and then we're going to revive with Daka and Marin as much as we can. Remember that under Talzin's lead, every time you do a special with one of your allies, you're also inflicting plague, so that jump attack with Asajj will do that. If it's resisted, you get turn meter, so it's a win-win. Talzin taps out again. We got through the 2 zombie deaths, so now Talzin's only going to come back when another of your teammates takes a turn. So you'll see Talzin pop back up here and then dip out again until you defeat somebody. Like we just defeated Handbag Finn there, so she gets to stay. If she dies off again, then she'll come back every time one of your teammates takes a turn, adding her basic damage and stacking plague as you go. So again, super hard JTR team. You let these guys get loose with another team and they will wreck you. You won't even get a turn. But the Talzin sisters take care of them super easy. Handbag Poe is about to dip out here. We've got plague stacked up on the others. JTR is in the yellow. She is not long for this world. Foresight was on BB-8. That is a weakness to this team. You can't hit through Foresight. But if you hit him with a basic, with one of your dead sisters, it clears it, and then the next attack hits. So you'll still stack that plague relatively consistently. We're going to kill BB-8 here, and then JTR is going to tap out. She's going to die of sadness on this dodge, but the plague gets her. So there you go. That is your JTR counter. Super easy, not much you have to do. You just kind of push buttons. All right, I found a GG team without Wat Tambor in Sector 2 of this conquest. Again, if Watt's in there, he almost always gives the weapons tech to GG, to General Grievous, and then Grievous starts one-shotting your sisters and they don't come back. So try to find a team without Watt and you'll do really well. Same idea here. You want to spread plague. The General Grievous team spreads the plague for you as they're doing their specials. So they start killing themselves off quite quickly. You'll see the stacks of B1 coming down every single turn. The marked droid thing bounces around. You really want to try to kill B2. B2 is a bit of a counter to the Nightsisters with his consistent AoE damage. He can take out low gear Nightsisters quite easily, and he's dispelling your buffs as you go. But what you can see there is the Nightsister team at this gear level handles a Sector 2 Conquest GG team super easy. All right. And that is the Nightsisters. OG Talzin lead. So thank you for the request on the YouTube channel. Keep them coming. If you're worried about me, why is Wrangler spending so much time inside and doing all these videos? It's just because it's off and on nice outside. When it's nice outside, I'm not in here. And I've got this little, month and a half stretch where my work is caught up, my family's taken care of, and it's before I start playing outside quite a bit over the summer. When it's nice and warm and I'm more comfortable. So I'm going to pump out as many of these faction videos as people want, or as teams that I come across that I'm not sure how they work, and I get to play and practice with them, and then make these videos for you guys. So I'm fine. Thank you for the concern, if there is any out there. I've just got this nice little window to do some videos, so I thought I'd take advantage of that and get them out for you guys. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. A really fun team, especially early game. A little bit less useful in the late game, but still some niche uses, and it's unique. Like, there's not a lot of teams where you don't have to think too much. You just let the uniques do their thing, and this is one of them. So kind of a made-for-Wrangler team, if you will. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Be good. If you can't be good, don't get caught, please. And just be good. It's better for the world if you are. I will see you guys on the next video. Next video I have coming up by request is the GG Stat team. So I will start working on that, and I will release it once I get it all together. But until then, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.